was it 28th? That's the so somebody from the States that didn't have time to sign in today or join. But is it Thanksgiving's Day or something in the States today?
Guess so.
But I wonder, does Bevy close off the registrations automatically or something at some point? Because I would expect that it's open until going live at least.
Yeah, I checked. By default, it was set till 8 or 2 hours ago. So when we got the email from somebody who couldn't sign up, I changed it to 10:30. So half an hour more. So I'm not sure what the default is, but there's a setting where you can say how long the sign up could be. But for a virtual event, it's a bit weird that it's 2 hours before actually we're starting.
Indeed.
Yeah, we're 2 minutes in, so I guess we're starting.
Let's kick it off. So, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us. Second event. Time went by quite fast, gotta say, or maybe I have a bad perception of time flowing. And thanks definitely to our esteemed guests. So we have two great speakers today, and of course, thanks to the co-leads of the tag, we've hopefully prepared some cool content for you guys. So, there we go. All right. So, what is this talk about? So, I think the inception for creating this came from Tori, and it was not so long ago during the during TC in San Diego. And a few conversations came up, and people basically said, "Hey, there's a kind of need for this." And so here we are. The purpose of this is to look at maps, basically. Tableau plus maps, data plus maps. Hopefully, we can expand a bit beyond what Tableau is doing and just talk about map techniques in general. That's what we're thinking about. And yeah, but maybe just to quickly introduce my fellow co-leads. We've got Dennis. Well, just ourselves, we're joining from, as you can see here, from a bit all over the place. And we have an exercise where we'd like to also see where everyone joining this tag is joining from. But yeah, just to mention it quickly, we've got Dennis joining from Canada, Tori joining from Norway. Myself, I'm from Cyprus, but I'm based in Switzerland. And then we've got Teddy joining from Singapore. So just a bit of a kind of global distribution. And I don't know, guys, if we would like to just very quickly, so in a one-liner, introduce ourselves here. Maybe I'll pass it on to Dennis as he's first on the slide.
Hello, everybody. So my name is Dennis Cow. I'm from Ottawa, Canada. It's 4 a.m. in the morning, so a little sleepy. So if I turn off my video, that means I probably have dozed off. I'm a social work professor at Carleton University. I started using Tableau about 4 years ago, and fortunate and honored to be a Tableau visionary as well as an ambassador.
Hello, Tore from Norway. I live in Bergen, but from a different city in Norway. When I started using Tableau, that was version 7 when filled maps were introduced. So way back when. Always loved Tableau, obviously, but find that data plus maps is something that everybody is talking about and want to talk about and present data visually on maps. So that's why I took the initiative to this as well. I'm a user group ambassador, also leading the Norway Tableau user group.
Great. Hey guys, I'm George. I'm a Tableau public ambassador, and yeah, I've been using Tableau for around 6 years now. In terms of maps, I would say that I've always had a keen interest, and I feel like there's a lot of room to grow. I think part of the reason this tag exists is because there's not that much information, or not as much as other features. I think it's maybe under highlighted, and so yeah, happy to be part of this and learning along with hopefully everyone else. And then Teddy, sorry, by the way, I think I might have said Singapore before. Hope I didn't. But yeah, passing on to Teddy, joining from Indonesia.
Thank you, Joyce. My name is Teddy Skandar. I'm a Tableau ambassador as well. I'm the analytic and BI lead in the Indonesian customs. And what I do basically is a fantastic job of managing the team who are responsible for leading and development and implementation of BI and analytics strategies, and ensuring that data is effectively utilized to improve business improvement. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Cool. So just a few housekeeping rules. Event is being recorded. Let me double check that. Yes, indeed. Audio and video is disabled, but please feel free, or we encourage you to comment along in the chat, throw in questions, and hopefully we can tackle them either in real time or with some delay. And yeah, just enjoy. Hope this is yeah, informative and fun for everybody. Cool. So we have a little thing which we would invite you to participate in. So this is a little survey which we want to record some data around who's joining and where we're joining from. So thanks, Dennis. Already the link is in the chat. So please feel free to go through that, and yeah, we'll share the results a bit later. All right, so just quickly the agenda. We've just gone through the welcome and introduction section. Next up, we've got Judith Becker, 2 times former visionary and still public ambassador. We want to basically ask a few questions about Judith, how she approaches data, how she approaches mapping, what makes her tick, and things of that nature. So more on that in a second. Then we've got Mark Reed, visionary Mark Reed, who's going to give us what I expect to be a pretty cool masterclass in how to do spatial analysis in Tableau. Mark, I've seen your videos before online, and I've always used it as a reference point for my own learning as well. So super happy to have you both. And then closing with some tips from the 4 co-leads that we introduced previously. Hopefully you find something that you can take away and use in your day-to-day. And with that, drum roll, our amazing speakers. So yeah, I think I've already kind of introduced you guys. Definitely, I mean, I'm sure most people, if not everyone here, knows you both. You've got amazing work out there. So I would encourage everyone to check out their public profiles, if nothing else. And yeah. All right. So if it's okay with everyone, I'll start with a few questions to Judith, and then if anyone wants to add anything or ask anything additional, maybe we can also do that. So Judith, thanks for agreeing to do this. Super happy to have you here. Would you like to?
Thanks for the invite.
Pleasure. Would you like to maybe give us a few words about yourself before we get started?
Yeah, I would be happy to. So I'm originally from Hungary, but now I live in Germany, in Berlin. So I got to meet some of you last year at the Tableau event. That was data from Europe. And it was a really great time. And I do love maps. I think my favorite app on my phone is Google Maps. That if I could just keep one, that would be it. So yeah, I'm happy that this group exists, and also happy to be here.
Great. It's funny that you mentioned Google Maps, because me and my partner have an ongoing feud basically. So I'm team Google Maps. I don't know why I've always had Google Maps, but she insists on using Apple Maps, which I find doesn't work as well. So yeah, it's good to know that there's a few others that agree with me. Great. So maybe first question. So actually, maybe it would be a good opportunity to just very quickly also show your profile here. I've got a second window. So when I first looked into your work, I knew for non-map related stuff. Actually, I remember when you had at some point said, "Hey, I'm going to give this mapping thing a go and try something." And I think you had done this.
Yeah.
I've done this, which was great. But I can see that, I mean, since you've done amazing stuff, and before actually also this Budapest viz, I mean, technically it has a mapping element. Really cool stuff. I would invite everyone again to check out Judith's portfolio. So maybe first question is, what makes you tick when it comes to maps, or what is your? Do you have a specific approach that you follow?
When it comes to maps and like everything in terms of visualizing data, I really, really like simplicity, like a combination between experimentation but still something minimalistic. So how my things or the things I like look follow this approach. And when it comes to topics, what to visualize, I would always go back to my hobbies. For example, I visualized beer hiking routes in Berlin because I live in Berlin. That's my basically surroundings, and I'm a big beer fan. So I just connected the two and just made a visualization out of it. For me, when something interests me, then it's way easier to spend these 40 hours on a topic that ends up in a viz than when something that's not super interesting to me, I wouldn't even start.
I can definitely relate with that. So yeah, I would say I think it's reasonable, or maybe the best work I find comes out of projects that are genuinely an authentic interest. I've found other people, maybe myself as well, maybe forcing yourself working on a topic that maybe is not 100% a genuine interest, and then it lacks that kind of edge of perfectionism, let's say, that takes it to the next level. But then, having said that, what inspires you generally? What maybe not just topics, but also sources, or where do you go for inspiration, or how do you motivate yourself in that sense?
I would say my number one inspiration is my surroundings. Everything I see around me, like I just walk on the street and I see a really cool ad, then I just shoot a photo and just have a look at it later because it gives me ideas. In general, everything that's related to 60s and 70s design. And this might be embarrassing, but I do have a Pinterest board for everything. Like even my wardrobe is on Pinterest, like in Clueless. So I think I have 100 boards that I can just go back to. And when I have a new idea, research for design options, what I can come up with. And I also really like experimenting with new things, regardless of the expected outcome. Collecting just data without knowing how I would just use it up, or if I will use it at all, or like same analogy, like I do like shooting analog photos, which is like super fun because you just get to know the result months later when you develop it. So yeah, I just like these unexpected things. So I just collect data and we'll see how it turns out. Maybe I will be able to match it with a design idea.
That sounds great. Do you sometimes do the reverse, as in the reverse in terms of having an end visualization in mind and then trying to make the data fit, or finding, let's say, a data set that would cater to that visual effect?
I tried once, and it was disappointing because I had this really cool idea on how I would like a visualization to look like. I had it in pen and paper, and I was like, this would be amazing. And then I had an idea about what to use it for, and then I started collecting the data, and I was like, oh no, there are not enough data points. Like this wouldn't look like the way I imagined, so I just gave up. It's still somewhere in the drawer. Maybe I will have a data set that would match that design, but I think for me the other way around works better.
I agree. And if I can I also here, whether I can relate to that, and if I can generalize to maybe more the business context, I've also found that basically it's a common trap that you make. Let's say you make a wireframe or a mock-up for something, and then you get the actual data, and the shape of it is so there's so many outliers or whatnot that it just looks terrible, where it's very hard to consume. So it goes eventually to the dashboard.
Yeah, and when you do it the other way around, it's easier to pivot, because if you have a design idea in the mind, I would want this to look like this, and then the data doesn't support that, then it's disappointment. If you do it the other way around, you have like a slight ideas on how you want it to look like, and then you see the data and it's not looking like that, and you have different ideas based on what you see, and you can still pivot. So yeah.
Exactly. Cool. So, question: what are your favorite maps, favorite type of maps? Or you could even reference maybe your own work here.
Not my own. I would definitely mention different things. I really like simple maps, like even the artistic ones that like use one color and then as a background and then just white outlines. I totally love those. But I do have some favorite Tableau maps as well. And I'm always a bit nervous when I'm pronouncing names. So my absolute favorite is from Tai Ho, about visualizing the population of Singapore. And I think she made it when map layers became a thing. And I was super amazed by what she done. And I think I'm still amazed. That is I think my absolute favorite. And then I have two more that just really stuck in my brain. The other one is visualizing the volcanoes of Japan by David Pires, and the third one is by Wendy Shia, who is like, she's amazing when it comes to maps and everything. To be honest. But there's one about underground railways in East China, and it looks like a spider web, and I don't think I will ever forget these three. I think these are huge sources of inspiration for anyone who's into maps or just want to try something out. I would recommend to check out these three.
Perfect.
Oh, I see it in the chat.
Yeah, I was going to say that, Dennis, thanks so much for just finding that work in real time and pasting the links. That's impressive. Cool. So I think you've touched upon this in your previous answers, but what can you share about your style of working? Like, what's a distinct kind of element, or maybe is there like a unifying, let's say, a quality between the way you approach mapping, or is every piece different maybe, and then there's no kind of like shared feature, if you know what I mean?
I think there are some traits that are shared, but then I wouldn't do the same map, same topic twice, because I would be bored. So I would like to keep everything I do minimalistic in terms of how I use space or colors. but also like experimenting. So maybe do something that is like 2D, and maybe something that shows like hills and valleys and whatnot. But I would like to keep it always minimalistic and limit my color usage. Lately, I've been into earthly colors, but somehow when it comes to visualizing maps, it's almost always black and white I opt for, or like, yeah, maybe one accent color. And I usually try to match the font type to what would fit to a map. If I don't find anything that would just click, I would always default to Futura, my favorite font. But yeah, again, I would describe it as like experimental, but still minimalistic, that would connect everything I do.
Great. And I was thinking actually in terms of tools, do you use so maybe Mapbox, I guess, or and also
Yeah.
for the output design, is there a specific toolkit that you always go for?
Yes, I love Mapbox. It can be sometimes complex to me how it works, and somehow I don't know what led to the result that I was aiming for. So I'm still not proficient in Mapbox, and I don't even know if I want to be. So it's a bit tedious, but I do like the end result. So yeah, I would definitely use Mapbox if I'm doing quizzes. And the other thing I use is Adobe Illustrator, just for the design elements, because it's super important to me to use my own design elements, my own fonts. And even though there have been some advancements when it comes to the choices that Tableau offers, sometimes I still feel that it's a bit limiting to me. So yeah, these two.
Cool. Yeah, I'm happy you said that, and I don't know how other people here feel, but also I feel Mapbox makes me feel uh, stupid sometimes. It's very, I mean, it's a super powerful tool. I definitely appreciate that, but it is, unless you, I guess, deep dive a little bit, it's a bit hard to figure out how to do some of the more basically complex things. I don't know, maybe there's room for a Mapbox session within this tag in the future as well. Great. I have a couple more questions. So one is, what is your favorite, if you have one in mind, what is your favorite kind of like tip or trick or technique that you use in terms of mapping?
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I was not following the new things in Tableau super close lately, because I'm not using it for work. So I feel like I'm a bit behind, but maybe in the future. So my number one tip is like still layering. Like you can just okay, if you don't want to make it like super interactive, you can just create a map and then do the Illustrator design stuff, whatever, on top, and just put back the same map, just transparent, on top of the design file. So it seems like it's like one map, but basically two. So one, you have the visual, then the design on top, and then again a transparent map. So I used it multiple times, but for the last example I did, beer hiking in Berlin, I tried to be like I tried to learn how to make it interactive and designed as well. So for the text elements that are changing in that visualization, I still use background images as maps, so that I could control them with a parameter, which is, I think, another great tip if someone is like super into getting their own designs in Tableau.
That's cool. I've never tried the parameter kind of linked background image, but something I've wanted to do. So yeah, that's a very good tip. Agree.
Yeah, again, really tedious. So if someone is willing to give up the font choice, for example, then I would really advise it, because you can just save, I don't know, net 2 days of work.
By the way, they did announce, so you mentioned that you maybe haven't been fully in touch with the latest features, but they did release, I think in the last one, some new fonts. I hope Futura
Yep.
is one of them. I also love to use that. And then spatial parameters is something that I think is super cool. I've got a tip later on this, so maybe it's going to be a nice little
Cool.
opportunity to see how it works. Great. And then last question for me is maybe taking it a bit out of the mapping topic is, do you have any guilty pleasure or fun fact that you would like to share? It can also be related to mapping or data.
Okay. Guilty pleasures, I don't think I have, because everything I find joy in, I just do it with pride. So no guilty pleasures on my end. Data fun fact, yeah, there's something. I'm working on a couple of new projects, and this year I'm really into learning German, and I just summarized that so far this year I spent 220 hours of learning German, and if that would be a 9 to 5 job, that would mean I've worked already almost 30 days, which is mind-blowing. And sometimes I feel like I spend so much time with this and I'm still not there. But yeah, maybe next year it will be 400, and then I will be satisfied.
That's impressive. In how long? In what period was it? 228 hours. When did you start? In other words.
This is just the data for this year, like from January the 1st.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, and I might do a visualization about it or not. I don't know. We'll see.
That's cool. Great. I would like to just very briefly open up to Tori, Teddy, Dennis. Is there anything else you would like to ask, or if, I haven't seen if you have anything else in the chat? I'll take that as we're covered.
Yeah, I didn't see any. There's nothing in the Q&A is open. There's nothing particular in the chat. Dennis has been copy pasting, so I think all the inspiration, all the visits that Judith has mentioned are now available also in there.
Cool.
Excellent. So Judith, with that, I would like to again thank you very much for sharing all this with us. Guys, really check out the portfolio. By the way, talking about inspiration, I would like to say that I get inspiration from you, definitely. Also, Mark, when it comes to your approach. So yeah, definitely check that out. And with that, moving on to the next slide. I'm not sure if someone would like to introduce Mark, Tore, maybe.
Yeah, I think you're on a go, but I don't have anything open in here. I'm not sure if you have done the same thing with like you did with Judith, that you have Mark's portfolio open as well.
I have it just here. 1 second.
And I can at least also honestly say that I do have several of his visits favorited on my own Tableau public profile, because there's so much fun stuff that he has done hacking around in Tableau that is really inspiring and crazy, I have to say sometimes.
Couldn't agree more. So yeah, Mark, I would also say, big source of inspiration. As I said before, go to your material. I think it's super, like your tutorials as well. Super easy to follow, very well constructed, lovely portfolio, super impressive use of Tableau, basically all around. So thanks very much for having us, or for being here. And with that, I would maybe hand over to you.
Great. Thanks, George. Thanks, Tor. It's great to be here. Let me go ahead and just share my screen, make sure that's working okay. Actually, I think you might need to
Maybe you stop sharing, George, first.
Yes, indeed.
There we go. All right. Okay. Yeah. So thanks again, everyone, for having me. It's great to be here. Big maps fan, obviously, in Tableau, and really great to see this user group kicking off and getting a good run at things. So looking to bring more Tableau and mapping knowledge to the Tableau community is great. Okay, so yeah, basically, my name is Mark. I'm a data analyst. I've been using Tableau for probably about 7 or 8 years now, and yeah, big fan of kind of exploring the new features in Tableau, doing lots of beta testing, and really getting started with mapping just in Tableau when I started using the tool. So it's really probably the only tool I've used for mapping, but I've learned a tremendous amount about geospatial analysis and mapping purely from explorations in Tableau and new features that have come out. So very happy to kind of share whatever knowledge I can in that area. Probably just one caveat to say, like I'm not geospatial trained or anything like that. So do please feel free to correct me if I'm using incorrect terminology or anything like that in the chat. I'm always happy to keep learning and building my own knowledge as well from those who do have more specialist training in this area. So agenda for today, just going to look at really why we would use spatial analysis, what it can bring to us, and how we can use it in Tableau. What is spatial data in Tableau particularly? So some of that will be generic across different tools, but then we'll start to look at specifically how Tableau incorporates and uses spatial data. And then we'll look at a few examples of how we can use it as well. Okay, so why would we use spatial data? So this is a quote from John Schwabish from his book, Better Data Visualizations, a very good book. And one of the main reasons is that when you use spatial data, it's really easy to kind of find yourself in the data. You can actually look for, there's a map of an area where you might live. The first thing you probably do is, oh, where am I in here? And what does this mean for me? And, what does it mean? So it's a really kind of good way to draw people into a visualization as opposed to, if you're looking at bar charts and line charts, it's not quite so easy to get that direct connection, I find. So we'll just go through a few examples. So I think Jude also mentioned the work of Wendy Shijio, which is she has an actually incredible portfolio. This is a map that she did of central Beijing. And I'm sure you can imagine if this is a map of your city, and I've seen a few other examples of these kind of circular maps actually with building layouts. But if this was a map of your city, you're probably the first thing you can do is, oh, where am I? I live up here, and what does this mean for me? What is the levels of buildings in my area? But yeah, so yeah, it really kind of draws you in. I think the colors are really great in this map as well, and yeah, it's just a beautiful style. I would definitely recommend checking out Wendy's portfolio. This is a map from Dennis, who's on the call here, one of the top organizers, and this is a really interesting one of the Paris, the Olympics that were held there, and it was interesting. I didn't realize actually just the kind of the diverse number of locations where they were holding these events. Actually, I thought it was mostly around the Paris area, but again, with a map, you immediately see where different things are and how it's spread out right across the country and even across the globe. Actually, there's a few areas, some French regions and other parts of the world. So yeah, really another great use of maps here. This is one from T-Ho. So I think Jude also mentioned T's work. So they did a really nice visualization on map layers when it first came out, looking at Singapore and laying on different parts, different geographical elements that layered over Singapore. So things like the parks and the aquatic facilities and so on. So it's really, really nice example. Another one from Teddy, who's also on the call here, organizer of the TAG, looking at fishing areas. So again, you imagine you trying to do this with a non-geographical display, just using sort of a table or charts or anything like that. It'd be very difficult to see these clusters and how they come up with where these different fishing areas are. So again, really powerful use of maps and really kind of a unique way to look at this data. Something interesting example from Dorian, is a regular contributor to the community, and he's kind of doing some manipulation of the latitudes and longitudes here to kind of bring in what effectively are kind of like a bar chart, but spread out over a map, over a geographical space. It's a really nice example. This is one I did recently of about some investigations into South Korea and the population density and the demographics there. So this is just an example of how you can combine both geographical information on the left, which have this map using Mapbox, and on the right a number of charts. So they kind of combine them together. So yeah, it was really interesting. I actually went to Singapore early in the year, so I was doing a bit of exploration, just trying to learn a bit more about the country. And they have actually the lowest fertility rate in the world, so it's a bit of an issue for them actually. You can see their population is just starting to drop off, starting to lower. So obviously a problem in many places, but in South Korea particularly. So yeah, anyway, this is an example of how you can combine both maps, geospatial and also graphs together in the same dashboard. Okay, so many reasons to use maps. They're incredibly powerful visualizations and really draw people in, but there are also a few cases where maps might not be the best visualization to use. And it's good to be aware of that, I think, when you start to think about using maps. So another question here from the same book that I mentioned earlier. So are there clear geographic patterns to be seen in the data? And if not, a map might not actually be the best way to kind of show the data. So that's something to really bear in mind. So just an example of that. This we just think of some sample data here of GDP per capita. And what you might do is, if you had a list of countries and that measure there, the GDP per capita, you might be tempted to just put that straight on a map, and this is what you would get, something like this, a choropleth. And you can see in the top right, we have a kind of a range of the values here. So lower is in kind of the yellow, and as you get darker, there are higher values there. So, a few things do pump out. You can really see like, okay, Ireland's quite dark, so that's probably quite high. Maybe Norway, United States. But it's really hard to see the details. And actually, if I was to ask you where the highest value was, you probably struggle to see it. And that's because it's such a small country. It's actually Luxembourg there, which is just a very small country in Europe, that actually has the very highest value. And the second highest value is even more difficult to see. And you might be able to guess where that is. It's in Asia. And we're actually in Singapore time, I think, for this tug. So there it is. It's Singapore. It's the second highest. And you can see on this choropleth map, because Singapore is such a small country, it's very difficult to see that. So this is not really a great representation to show that data. So one kind of approach might be to switch over to a proportional symbol map. So you can start to see Singapore really jump out now with this large circle. But Luxembourg is still a little bit hidden because we have so many overlapping countries here in Europe, so it's difficult to see. So really the kind of I guess the point to make here is that if you really want to show this data and the geographics of it is not so key, it's not so important, really you just want to know is what are the countries with the highest GDP, you might just want to use a bar chart. And that's very often, can be the case with these kind of things. So it's just really important to bear in mind, do I really need to use a map here? Is the spatial element of this data the most important, or do I just need to see a rank of countries? Okay, so let's talk about spatial data in Tableau. So we have three core elements of the spatial data that we generally map in Tableau, which is lines, points, and polygons. So your lines could be things like roads or rail networks or flight paths, could be outlines of buildings. Points could be any location, could be airports or weather stations, for example. Polygons could be countries or national parks, anything with an area, essentially. So just a few examples here. So we have some linear geometry here showing a line from New York to Madrid. We have some spatial points, such as these cities here. I've actually made these a little bit bigger. I think actually, if I recall correctly, I use buffers for these, which we'll get on to a second. But it's important to note that spatial points don't have any area at all. It's just an intersection of a latitude and longitude, so you won't see any kind of area to them. And then the lower left, we have an example of a polygon, which is the country for Argentina there. So these are just some examples of the three core elements that you'd be working with. It's important to point out that just to mention briefly, kind of the map projections. So you may have seen something similar to before. There's different, there's actually hundreds, in fact, I think over 1,000 ways you can map these projections now. And the projection that Tableau uses is the Mercator in the top left. And this is sometimes a little bit controversial because it can distort, or actually does distort, the data, particularly towards the poles. So, for example, Greenland there is will fit into Africa about 14 times, but you can see in the Mercator projection they look about the same size. With another projection, this Gal-Peters one, for example, you can see that Greenland is actually much smaller than Africa. So that's just something to bear in mind, particularly if you're working with data close to those poles, north or south poles, that you will get distortion with the Mercator projection there in Tableau. Okay, so coming back to our key objects again, spatial objects. So how does this work in Tableau? So actually, when you install Tableau, it installs a database that has a number of these elements included in it, and it will map things like airports, cities, countries. This is a European geographic area for statistical reporting in Europe, which so some of the countries will have that, state provinces and postcodes. Because we were on Singapore time, I just did the same thing for Singapore here. So for example, you can see in Singapore, the state provinces, it has 55 of those within that geodatabase within Tableau. And if you're interested in looking up your own country, you can do that. Just go to this website here and you'll be able to look those up. So yeah, just to kind of explain that a bit more. So when you install Tableau, you know, it's this kind of a 600 megabyte download that you bring in there, and there's kind of a lot going on there, and you might think, oh, why is that so big? You know, what's the code that's involved that makes it 600 meg? So this isn't sort of to scale or, you know, exact representation, just symbolic, but you obviously have your code, you have database drivers in that within that 600 megabytes, various other things, but you also have this geodatabase. So that's all of these airports, countries, states, and some of those will be the points like the latitude and longitude. Some of them will actually also be the polygons as well. So hence why, you know, that does take up a fair amount of space. So let's just look at a demo of how that can be used then in terms of like things like the airport codes. So I'll just switch over to Tableau, which, yeah, you can see that hopefully okay. So let's say, for example, we bring in, you know, I have some text, which is just airport codes for a few large airports in the Asia region. I can just copy these and go to Tableau and just paste those in. And you see we just get a list of that data there. We've got the name of the airport code, and then this is the number of passengers in millions per year. So what we have now is just a clipboard data source there. So I'm just going to clear this view out, and then I'm going to go and you see the airport code is just coming as text. So what we can do is actually give that a geographic role. And because we know that the airport codes, we can click on the airport here, and that's then going to turn this in. You see it now has a globe icon, which says it's a geographical role. And if we double click that, it's going to bring in those airports on a map immediately. So we can just make those, let's make this a little bit bigger. I'll make those red as well, so you can see those. Okay, and then for example, we could put the name of on the labels there, so you can see the different airports. So, you know, Hong Kong, Shanghai, and so on. So I guess, yeah, the point I really want to kind of stress here is that we've gone from, you know, just some text that we, you know, may have got from the internet or from ChatGPT or wherever, and Tableau has actually interpreted that, and it's just taking these individual codes here, and it's going to its internal database that's in the Tableau executable that you've installed. It's looking up the latitude and longitude from that database, and then it's able to map those immediately. So it's quite a powerful tool in that sense that, you know, you're not necessarily having to connect to spatial data. You can just connect, you know, or even just copy and paste in geographical names that Tableau does have in its spatial database, and it's able to look those up and then map those. So it's a really powerful part of Tableau. We can do that with provinces as well. So for example, if we just go back to our text file here, these are some provinces in Singapore. So I just, again, just downloaded these from the internet or ChatGPT. So if we just copy these in here, we'll do the same thing. So we have just a list of text there. I'm just going to, as our second clipboard file here, I'm just going to clear those out. And you can see it's given them that, it's recognized that name, provinces, so it's automatically given the geographic role there as a state or province. And we double click that. Now you're going to see as we do this now, because I'm based in the UK, so my default for the country for these lookups is going to be the UK. So that's why it's not actually mapping those. So what we need to do is just go to this little pop-up in the bottom right-hand side where it says unknown, and then you can edit the locations. So what we need to do here is tell Tableau where those provinces are. So they're not in the UK, they're not in France or Germany, they're in Singapore. So we just need to tell Tableau that. So click on Edit Locations, and then we can click on the country region. Click drop down, and we'll just go search for Singapore, and now you'll see that they're all recognized now. And then we can just click OK, and now Tableau is going to again map those. So initially what it's doing is, because we've got the mark type of automatic there, it's mapping these just as a circle. But what we can do is just change that to map, and now it's going to go to, I'll just put this on color as well, so you can see those as well. So again, what it's doing is it's looking at those names that we just copied in there. It's going to its internal database. It's saying, okay, I recognize these as provinces. We've told it Singapore. Return me the polygons from the Tableau install file. Again, that 600 megabyte file. It's pulling out those polygons from there, and then it's mapping those on our dashboard. So again, super powerful. You're just coming from some text names here to a map within Tableau. Very, very simple. Okay, so how can we use this spatial data in Tableau? So going back to that earlier slide, we also we're talking about the supported map data. You can also map any latitude and longitude coordinates, so they're all supported by Tableau. So let's say we have just some sample data here of some points of interest in London. So I've got the latitude and longitude of some various places. And you'll notice that again, because these names are recognized, latitude and longitude, if you also call them lat and long, I think it also does this, it's automatically given them that geographical role there, so it knows that they're latitude and longitude. If it doesn't, if for example you've connected to a file where the latitude and longitude are called something else, just maybe X and Y or something like that, again you can go in, click on the little icon that's on the left of those fields, and then give them a geographical role of latitude and longitude, so you can manually make those associations if you need to. Again, then we just click on the latitude and longitude. Tableau will automatically make a map. It knows what to do with those fields, and then you can map those items. So coming back to our 3 points again, another thing you can do, apart from working with the key elements that you might connect to a spatial file that has polygons or points. You can also create other spatial objects using the functions that are in Tableau. So there's a number of spatial functions that Tableau has, and this list is kind of growing with a number of different releases over the years. So we've got make point, make line. We'll look at some of these in sequence. So make point allows you to make a spatial point out of latitude and longitude, so just these numerical values. And you can just, very simple, you just create make point, pass in latitude and longitude, and that'll give you a point. So if we look at the view data now with for this same sample data, you'll see that we have the latitude, the longitude, and then what Tableau shows there is that it's a point, and versus a kind of a value that you can see, such as you have here. So you're kind of demonstrating that you can see these spatial elements being created within Tableau. So likewise, you have buffer. And just to quickly explain what buffer is, it allows you to visualize the distance around a point location. So it's important to kind of just make the distinguish kind of a buffer between a circle. So within if you use a circle mark in Tableau and you change the size, this is not a spatial element that you're working with. It's kind of an abstract size that you're giving it. So the difference will be, for example, if you had a circle and a buffer, as you zoom in or out, the circle will appear to stay the same size visually, but the buffer is like a fixed object, almost like you can think of it to being attached to the surface of the earth. So as you zoom out, just as with everything else, like with the river here and the roads, it gets smaller. So to make a buffer, we need a spatial point, and then we need a unit, which is kilometers or miles, and then the radius within that unit. So again, you can actually nest these calculations as well. So if you have latitude and longitude, you can actually make the point inside of the buffer calculation and pass that in. So you're getting this middle section is creating the spatial point that we need, and then we're passing the other parameters that we need for this buffer calc. And you can use for the units of radius here, meters, kilometers, miles, or feet. Okay, so when we do that, we now have our latitude and longitude as numbers. We then have our spatial point. And then as for our buffer, we have this polygon. Okay, so why would we want to do that? Why not just use the latitude and longitude? Well, if you want to start to do other things in Tableau like spatial joins, you need to use spatial objects. So the spatial join does require spatial objects to work. So you can actually create those spatial objects within a join calculation as you do the join. So you can either create them before or actually within the join itself, which is quite nice. So you can see here I made the point using a make point calculation on the left. On the right hand side in the second source, we're creating the buffer using this calculation, which we just looked at. So what does this spatial join do? If you've not used spatial joins before, just to quickly run through that. So we've got two sources here, one with various points and another one with points that we're going to create buffers around. So I'm just showing one point in the second source. So within that join calculation, we're creating that buffer there using the distance. And then we're kind of essentially overlapping those when that spatial join happens, because everything, latitude and longitude is consistent everywhere. It's, with those two sources, it can essentially overlap those two sources, and where those points fall inside the buffer, we keep them, and where they fall outside, they fall outside of the join, so they drop away. And then we just end up with the ones inside. So that's kind of what a spatial join is doing there. So why might use this for things like customer proximity analysis or competitor analysis? So maybe you want to open a business in a certain location and you want to see, where your competition is. If you're able to get a file of all the locations of your competitors, you could then do a join and find out how many of those are within a certain range of particular locations where you're thinking about opening your business, for example. And I go kind of a deep dive into this in a blog post that you find on our website, and there's also a dashboard that you can download and look at all the calculations and parameters and various other things. So we'll link to that at the end of this presentation as well. Okay, let's move on and talk about map layers. So I think Judith mentioned this actually earlier when she was talking about this is such a powerful feature. So prior to map layers, which came out a number of years ago, you had to use a dual access map, and that just allowed you to do kind of map two things. You can now have unlimited layers of maps, which is really powerful. So, and the way this works, you can just drag them in and you drop them on as creating a new map layer, and then it allows you to create different marks cards and different values. So you can see you're just dragging these in, dropping them on, you create a new marks layer, and then you can work with those. So just to kind of go over that again, so you have three for each layer you bring in. You have a separate map marks card, and that allows you to then kind of format those differently. So for example, using a circle mark for this layer, using a shape mark type for this layer, and a map mark type for this layer. So it gives you a lot of flexibility and allows you to kind of do much more interesting spatial analysis. Okay, so let's look at a specific use case of why you might do that. So let's say you're wanting to buy a house somewhere and you want to kind of find out where would be the best place to do that. You can look at various types of spatial data that might help you. So you might look at the house prices. Maybe you're interested in being near some parks and greenery. You want to make sure you don't live near a floodplain. You want to stay away from road noise. Maybe you want to be close to some supermarket, and maybe some EV charging points if you have an EV car. So you could find some spatial data of what the average house prices are within a particular area. So here we're showing where the more expensive are in the darker color and the less expensive in lighter. You can find a spatial file of where different parks and greenery is within your city of choice. Again, another spatial file with where the floodplains are, so you might stay away from those, where the road noise is, where locations. I was able to find a file with all the latitude and longitudes of supermarkets in London, and then again with the EV charging points. So all this is, sometimes you do a fair amount of Googling and looking around, but all this spatial data is all available online generally, and usually it's open source as long as you kind of reference it. So you can bring all these things together in one particular map. And then you can start to make some choices. Okay, well, actually, these areas look quite good. They're close to parks and away from the noise and so on. And these might work for me. So it allows you to kind of make decisions based on all that spatial data that you put together on one map. So I have again, a blog post on this, and there's a data visualization workbook you can download and kind of explore how that's all done. So the final thing we'll just look at is spatial parameters. So I think George was mentioned this earlier as well. So this is a new feature that has just come out in Tableau and allows you to create a parameter that is actually a spatial object. And this allows you to do various operations without needing to do spatial joins, which is really powerful because spatial joins are quite computationally, a bit of a drain. So this allows you to do things quite quickly or maybe just test things out without having to do that join. So let's make an example real quick. So let's say you have two files, one with some areas, and then a second one with some building plans. So you want to look at you want to show just the building footprints for the selected area that you're looking at. So previously you would have to create a spatial join between these two files, and that's going to join every single one of these wards, these areas, against every kind of the area within this building footprint spatial file. But what you can do now with spatial parameters is just select one area. That will pass that out into a spatial parameter here. And then you can use one of these new functions that's in Tableau, such as the intersection. And that's allowing you to doing an intersection between that spatial parameter and your building file, which is the second source. And then it's just going to bring out which of those building footprints fit within that spatial parameter. And that's what you're seeing there. So just to show you a quick demo of that. The way this works is as we go in here and we select an area. So for example, this ward here. What it does is update this parameter with something called WKT, which we'll look at in a second real quick. But it's actually just, you can see it's calling a polygon there. So what it's doing is translating this spatial file object, this spatial area here, and turning it into WKT, which is well-known text, and it kind of puts into this parameter. And then Tableau is able to then use that in the calculation, which is this intersection here, which is the result we're seeing here. So as we click again, it updates this spatial parameter again, it reruns that calculation, and that's what you're visualizing here. Okay, I'll just touch on briefly Mapbox. We won't go into details here because I think we're running out of time, but just to mention that this was something I used for this particular visualization. So, you have your standard mapping layers in Tableau, but you can also create custom maps as well. So this is Mapbox. You go to studio.mapbox.com, you can create your maps. So this is the map that I created for this particular visualization. And I was able to upload some data into Mapbox and then kind of visualize that with this on this color scale here. And then you can go ahead and share that. So you can bring that, so you click on the share, and then you can say, I want to use this elsewhere. And you take that link over to Tableau here. So you click on third party, then Tableau, you take this link, and then you can incorporate that into in Tableau. And again, I do have a kind of a blog post where I go into a bit more detail on that and how you can do that. So all of those details are there. Okay. So just to close out, I do have a number of resources here, a number of Tableau workbooks and blog posts, and then I've also done some videos as well. So they go through kind of all of the the calculations and literally all the mouse clicks that you need to create these things. So hence why I've not really done that today. I wanted to give kind of really a broad overview of just kind of how mapping works in Tableau with some links out to a number of other resources. So just a few I'll close out with here. So Sarah Batterby, who used to work at Tableau, is really kind of an absolute authority on this, and I'd really highly recommend going to all of her blog posts. There's obviously some Tableau's own help files. I've just put a kind of a high-level guide to mapping that I did for Tableau, and there's a couple from the Flemish twins here looking at other map projections, and there's a series that actually Sarah did on using QGIS there as well, and there's many more. It's hard to kind of reference everyone in these presentations, but please do search out for the community for all the resources that we have available. And that's it from me, folks. Hope that's useful.
Thanks so much, Mark. That was great. Thanks for putting all these resources together as well. I think this is a great kind of starter kit, if you will, for Mark for mapping. Definitely check out these links. I also put a couple of resources from Mark. So the blog, dataviz.blog, has a lot of really good stuff. And definitely we also recommend the YouTube playlist. Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's like around 7-10 videos. And they go through demos, examples of a lot of the concepts that you've talked about here. Definitely a very nice intro to these capabilities, and quite honestly, pretty much all you need to start doing these things. So thank you so much, Mark.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, very happy
Round of
to be with you.
applause.
Thanks, Flags.
Excellent. Cool. All right, so let me share again. Let me go to slideshow mode. And back to the big screen. All right, here we go. Awesome. We have a question in the chat. Maybe we can tackle this from Jost. He's never used Mapbox. Is this also where we can create custom shape files? I'm not sure if Mapbox has that capability. Does anyone? I've mostly used it for kind of designing the map itself. Like you can configure what can be shown, the layers in the background in Tableau. I'm not sure if you can actually create shapefiles with it.
Yeah, I don't think so, George. I don't think you can create shapefiles in there, but it's really more for kind of formatting the kind of the map background and bringing other elements such as geographical elements and mountains and roads and things like that. So yeah, I don't think you would create spatial files in there, but you can use it as a background for your Tableau maps.
Exactly. Excellent. All right, guys. Thanks everyone for the input. Switching on to the next bit. By the way, if there's any more questions, please keep putting them in the chat, and I think we will probably have a few minutes at the end to come back if needed. All right. So next up, we've got some tips. So some techniques that you can use day to day. I feel like maybe since I'm sharing, I can go first. If there's no objections, see some thumbs up. All right, cool. And I think it's actually nice because it's a natural extension, I would say, from what Mark just showed. Let me bring this over. Great. So I've got a couple of tips I wanted to show. And I'm leveraging a very simple dashboard that I put together. For this, just a brief context. This just shows the location of the residencies of billionaires according to Forbes in 2021. So if anyone wants to stalk the billionaires, I'm not sure if they're still there. Not sure if anyone would want to do that. Anyway, but basically it's a very simple map. And then on the right-hand side here, you've got a bar chart. It's doubling the same information you see here, but sorted by their net worth. And this is powered by two parameters. So this is using parameter actions. You could also do it with filters, but I'm using parameters from the beginning to leverage a couple of features, which I'll show in a second. So if I click somewhere, let's click on Jeff Bezos, you'll see that two things are happening. The first thing is we're passing the name. This is what is used in the filter itself and also as a little highlighter. And the second thing is this spatial parameter that Mark showed before. This is a new feature. It enables a lot of cool things. Mark showcased a lot of that functionality. It also can be used in LODs, for instance, which is something that you couldn't do with just a spatial field before. So it does enable a lot of things, and this is what I'm leveraging in a second. So this works. We can filter, so that's fine. But what I don't like about this is that Tableau doesn't allow you to determine the zoom in level for a map. So if I wanted to go in and see the exact area, the neighborhood for this data point, I couldn't actually do that. And you could probably do it manually if you'd like. I think here I've deselected, but it doesn't matter. Here it is back again. So you can zoom in manually, but then the problem is that as soon as you click away, the map is static. So this doesn't actually solve the problem. It makes it worse. I would then have to unpin the map to go back to the default setting. So what we would like to do is kind of build a dynamically controlled capability. And that is actually done using the buffer calculation. Maybe just for completeness, I'll just show that was the filter I mentioned before. So if the parameter is equal to none, otherwise nothing selected, then show everybody. Otherwise, show the name that matches the parameter. So that's just a simple filter. But then what we want to use is this buffer. So this is exactly what Mark showed before. One difference is that instead of passing, excuse me, a latitude and longitude, because it can also accept that, we're passing directly a spatial field. And this spatial field is actually our spatial parameter. So if we put that in, and we can also have, this is just a number, which determines dynamically the radius. This will then draw a circle or a buffer around the selected point. So let's put that in. By default, nothing happens because no one is selected, but let's go back to the main dashboard for a second, and let's pick a certain data point. This will then zoom in. And if we want to take this to the next level, what we would like to probably do here is hide the circle, because we don't actually care about the buffer. We just care about its the zoom effect that it has. So I can turn that off. I can also remove the border. Notice, by the way, here that still this is clickable. So this is something that we don't want, and it's actually abstracting the data point. So what you can also do here is you can disable the layer entirely. So this is considered when building the view, but it's not actually clickable. So it becomes kind of like a background image in that sense, which is very cool. And then using that dynamic control, we can now determine how far in we zoom. So if I go down to, let's say, 4 kilometers, I can now see local geographical features, their labels. And if I go back to the original map, this is now configured with that zoom built in. So you can use that as a kind of zoom control on the dashboard and control that. If you unclick, it goes back to the default map. So that's cool. I want to take it one step further. What I actually want to do here is not necessarily filter, but I actually want to just navigate to that. So imagine I have a map and I just want to be able to click and say, show me that area in the map. I don't actually want to filter out all those points. So what we can then do is use an intersects function. So the second thing that Mark showed. And for the sake of time, I've pre-built this as well. What the intersects function will do is, so again, this first line is, if no one is selected, show everybody. Otherwise, check if geometry here refers to the points of each of those billionaires. Are those points falling or are they intersecting with this buffer calculation? So again, this buffer is a circle. So it's basically saying, are those points falling within the circle? If they are, show them. Otherwise, don't show them. So if we now replace the filter with this different filter, we get, already here we can see they're not very visible, but there's a few more points that appear. And maybe just for demonstration, let's maybe increase this a little bit. So we can faintly see it. I'll do maybe 20. Cool. And let's increase the radius a little bit. And there you have it. So with that, you can kind of still navigate a certain area while still keeping the context within an X amount of kilometers in this case in the map. And if we go back to the original, we can kind of navigate to different areas while keeping the context there. That is it for me. And I will pass on to maybe Dennis.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Oh, George, you have to turn off. Oh, there you go. Okay. Let me share my screen. And if you haven't done so, definitely fill out the survey so we can kind of track where folks are coming from. I'll put the link in the chat as well. But what you're entering basically kind of looks like this. I used a tool called Survey 123, which is part of the ArcGIS suite of tools from Esri. It created a little survey, and then it automatically, in real time, puts it on the map like so. And so these are basically data points from you all who have filled out the survey. Let me update it really quick and see if anybody else has filled it out. So not everybody has filled it out, only 15 of you. So we have incomplete data, but that's perfectly fine. So that's what, and we'll just kind of do this, since this is a data plus maps tug, we'll just kind of do this over time and see what happens with it. Great. So let me go to Tableau. So what I thought I would do is kind of show you a little bit about kind of working with shapefiles in Tableau. Mark did a great job in showcasing how the use of geographic roles that are kind of Tableau recognized kind of geographic places and units that Tableau recognizes. But in some cases, you might want to use your own shapefiles, and you can find shapefiles from a number of different places like OpenStreetMap, Natural Earth Data, the Census Bureau, if you're from the United States, probably other, census or GIS offices in other parts of the world as well. And so I have a couple of shapefiles here that were actually created and hacked by Sarah Battersby, one of the resources that Mark mentioned, of the United States. And she hacked these so that it wouldn't conform to the Mercator projection. And I'll just show you them in a minute, and you'll see kind of, it looks a lot better than the Mercator, the way she set this up. So I have a shapefile for the states and as well as the counties. And one of the cool things ever since the map layers kind of came out as a feature in Tableau is you no longer have to worry about modeling the data. You don't have to worry about the data model anymore, and you could just pull in all these different map layers or data for these individual map layers as separate data sources. And so I'm just going to pull these two in. So here's the counties. Just pull that in. And the cool thing is, like, one kind of quick tip is you can actually go to the sheet and just quickly pull in the shape files, all the data sources, and you'll see them. They're located right here. Okay. And so I'm just going to pull in, and with shape. So obviously, shape files have, like, so this is the name of the states, and you can actually obviously assign a geographic role. So let me assign state. You can pull this in. Of course, I am based in Canada, so this is not going to work. Let me switch this to United States. And you'll see it'll automatically map it out like so. Right. So with Tableau, you can quickly create a map, but there might be some places or some use cases where you might want to use actual shape files and bring them in. So let me clear the sheet. So I'm just going to bring the state one in just to kind of take a look. And so this was one that Sarah created based on another projection, the Lambert projection. And you'll notice that, the United States, the continental United States, looks a little different. It's a little curved. And then she brought in Alaska and Hawaii in the same kind of page, which I think in the view. And so I think this is a great way to kind of showcase the United States. Alaska always looks too big, things like that. And so one reason that you might want to use your shape files is that you can kind of hack a little bit to kind of, use other projections or things like that. So let me, and there's a couple of functions that I believe, and Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, like, so one example of a function is the outline function or the calculation. And I believe you need to use that on like an actual spatial data, as opposed to something that's Tableau will recognize as a geographic role. And so let me just pull this in. And So I'm going to pull in the states, and then I'm going to pull in the counties that look like that. So these are the states, and these are the counties. And of course, you can turn off the color so you can see everything. And you know, once I have all these kind of shapefiles layered, I can adjust things to kind of make it look like to make it maybe look a little better aesthetically. Let's see if I can. But one thing that you can do is, so one thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to use the outline function, because I want to show the state boundaries. I want them to be a little bit more prominent than the county boundaries. And I think that just aesthetically, I think that will look better. And so I'm going to actually use the outline calculation. And let me make this a little bigger so you can see that. And I'm just going to do the outline of the geometry field for the state data source, like so. And what this is going to create is a new spatial unit that is just the outline of the states of the United States. And so when I pull this in, you'll notice it kind of looks like that, right? And so now, because this is now a line feature, so this is just the boundaries around the states. Now I can manipulate the width of this line, like so. And so I'm going to just turn this black, and I just think aesthetically, this looks much nicer than if I try to kind of play with the polygons, and because you can only do so much with the border on the polygon, but if you change it to an outline, you can make it a lot thicker. And so I think that looks pretty good like that. And then I want to quickly just show you. So a couple of weeks ago or a month ago, I created this little viz where you can play with the. I was just kind of fooling around with the spatial parameters, not really knowing what they do. And I want to show you kind of how I created this really quick. And so I'm just going to pull in the states for this purpose. And then I'm going to create a parameter. And I'm going to call it, I'm just going to call it spatial parameter. And I'm going to choose spatial. And I'm just going to leave it empty for now, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a parameter action to fill in selected states into that parameter. And what a spatial parameter does, and I'm just going to create a calculation with that parameter alone. What that does, it actually creates another geographic unit. You'll notice the icon, the geographic unit, geography icon there, selected states. And I'm just going to pull that in as another layer. And I'm going to make that maybe red. Okay. I'm going to show the parameter. So right now it's empty. And I'm going to create an action. I'm going to change parameter action on this worksheet with that parameter, and then the field would be the geometry of the United States. And so what happens, hopefully if this works, works out. Oh wait, I need to disaggregate it by the names. Okay, and so what happens when I select a particular state like Florida, you'll notice that the parameter gets filled with the I don't even know what the WKT language. I've never worked with that. 15 years of doing GIS, I've never really worked with that language, and so but the cool thing about the spatial parameter is you can select single states, like single units, just like a regular parameter, but then you can also select multiple units. So you'll notice the ones that I'm selecting are the ones that are turning red, etc. And you can, I think you can click on Control, or maybe not, and select individual states like so. And then the spatial parameter will get filled with the selected states. And then I think you can imagine kind of the possibilities, right? The various use cases if you're able to select multiple states, and those are linked to, and those are filters for various charts or things like that. So anyways, those are my tips. Thank you.
Pretty cool. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, George. I'll jump in then and share my screen as well. And I obviously love to share tiny Tableau tips where you can save some time when you're building anything in Tableau. That's kind of what I love to do. So I'm going to show you a couple of tiny Tableau tips in here with maps. I'm using mainly the data plus TV, the IMDb data set. Of course, it's a bit boring in the sense that there's only countries in here. There's not a lot of spatial data, but still, when I add these countries in here, and of course I can change this to a map. We have these field maps as well, and this is, I'm still looking for like the perfect use case for this, but and this is something that you discover when you play around in Tableau as well, because now I have all the countries, all the shapes in here. If I now get rid of latitude and longitude and increase the size a bit, which is a bit difficult to find in here, you're actually finding that you have all your shapes separated from the latitude, longitude in here. And if you then, for example, put in the IMB series rating in here, right drag this one into size so that I can find the average, and maybe I can even sort the countries in here based on the rating. So we're trying then to figure out which countries in the world, and this is also a bit back to what Mark said earlier. Don't use a map just because you can, or if the data is not properly. But we can now hover over and see that Costa Rica, the movies and TV series from Costa Rica has a 5.2 rating. The best ones are from Nepal. But this also gives you an idea of or learning how are the shapes of the different countries in the world. I know that Norway should be in here somewhere, and then you have to look around, obviously, because you don't see it on the map itself, so you don't know where it is. But this is a nice way of showing those individual shapes of the countries or states or whatever you have in your data. Still have those circles in here, because those are countries that don't exist anymore or have been split or divided or whatever. So you'll find some of these in here as well that just are shown as circles. If I still look at these countries, and I would like to look at just one country at a time, which is of course fine. I'm just going to make this a map, and since I'm from Norway, I'm going to keep only Norway. But still, if I would like to share some data of your from Norway, why do I need to see Sweden and Finland, those damn neighbors over here? Well, I don't care about them, especially when I'm looking at data from Norway. So even though I filtered for Norway, Sweden is still here. So there's a couple of options that we can do. We can, of course, go to the background layers. We can do a washout as long as we have a filled map. Then luckily we have gotten rid of Sweden. We still have Norway in here, and then I can add, because of the beauty of the layers. Now I don't have any particular fun data from the data plus TV's data set, but if I go to the Superstore and drag in cities, and as shown by Mark as well, these two different data sources don't have to be related anywhere. And then I go to Dennis's problem as well. He's from Canada, and now I see city of Oslo, which is basically also in the States, but also in Norway. And that is because obviously Tableau is an American company. Everything is centered about America, so everything should be in America. But as long as I just put in my country in here as well, my all my circles pop over in Europe, and of course I should also add in a filter for this data set as well, so that I only see the Norwegian cities. And then the trick that was just shown before, just get rid of the selection, so I don't care to click on or highlight Norway itself. I'm more interested in the size, sorry, the cities, and maybe make this one a bit larger as well. So this is a nice way of just getting rid of everything else around your own particular country or state or whatever you're looking at, to make sure that you don't have to, even though you're filtering, you can still use this technique to get rid of the background. Of course, if you then go in and change the background map to something else, to a satellite, you won't see that because you have a washout, so you don't see anything in there. The last thing I want to show, and this is something that I use a lot as well, to or make sure that people understand that it's actually is in here, because that's when it comes to navigation in the map. One thing is that you can have these layers, so you can turn on and off the different layers if you want. You can take this one away as well. So if you don't want the end user to have these options, then you can basically say take away the layer control. If you don't want them to search, you can turn these off as well. But I live in Bergen, so I might want to zoom into Bergen for some reason. And also the other options we have in here is to, if you want them to have the view toolbar, this is the one that I'm going to show afterwards, and then the pan and zoom. If you don't want them to zoom into the map, sometimes you just want to stop people from doing that. So there are a lot of these options, but especially in this one, by default, you have this square where you, when you do this, you are just selecting whatever area you have. If you are a bit more interested in the radial selection, if you zoom in close enough, just have to find that sweet spot when you have zoomed in. So when you have a data point, you can actually see in kilometers or miles if you want to. So basically like a buffer. I love to use the lasso one, because if I would like to select and ignore a city or something in here and just select a few of these, this is quite flexible as well. So use these navigation buttons, and if you want to get rid of them, you go to the map options and change over here. So then I'm going to switch over to Teddy in the end. I'm just, I was happy to look at this, by the way, that Mark showed this supported map data, because this is really annoying, because in Norway, we have now 11, by Tableau, 11 counties or states and 357 counties. If I go to Google and to the real world, we actually have split several of these. And Tableau has now spent 11 months not fixing that data. That's really annoying. But I have talked with people. They are trying to fix it. In December, they've said. The problem then is, when will Mapbox fix the underlying data? The maps as well. So maybe next year. Sorry, just a bit rant there. Teddy,
Yes,
you have
thank
some
you.
tips for us as well?
Yes, thank you, Dore. Another tiny Tableau tips from me. Let me share. All right. I will share several tiny Tableau tips on using Tableau in mapping. Typically, the idea is the same with Mark saw us about when Tableau doesn't recognize some location. So let me show another data set from Indonesia context, maybe some Asia Pacific participant coming here. So just click here, yeah, edit location. And don't forget to change country origin here to fix Indonesia, right? Indonesia. Indonesia. Yeah. we have some location unrecognized by Tableau. Let's see here. Nusa Tenggara, Timur here. This is something like this. Kalimantan Utara, and so on and so forth. When we change the matching location here based on the location, so here, and some location unknown by Tableau will be replaced, right? And another tips is when we have some data set, but Tableau doesn't recognize location in terms of latitude and longitude. For example, address location. We have some extension from Google Docs. It namely geocode awesome table. Start geocoding. Start geocoding. Okay. I got some internet connection. Okay. Just click here. Okay. Okay. We go. It takes some times. Yes. Okay. We will use field sample data. Okay. Okay. We have skyscraper building in the world, Burj Khalifa and so on. We have address field, Dubai, Tokyo, and Japan. But we don't have longitude and latitude of field, so we can create this latitude longitude by using this extension. Create select sheet 1, this sheet 1 for current sheet, and we can choose the column after name, after address, and so on. You can see address, and just click your code here, and the extension for latitude longitude will be appear here. So it's easy and super powerful for generate latitude and longitude for some our data set, for example, for others. Okay, this tiny tip for me. Thank you.
Great, thanks guys, and super cool. The last little tip that I haven't seen that before. I'll go back through the recording and check exactly how you did that.
Yes.
Nice. So, guys, we're already a little bit over time. So, thanks everyone for staying on. Basically, I'll share one last time for some wrapping comments, and yeah, that would be it. So, just a quick reminder: we have this logo and banner contest. We don't have an official. Well, we have this kind of placeholder, which I kind of have to say it's growing on me. Kind of like this one now. But in any case, we have a logo and banner contest for the TUG. We'd love to see inputs from as many of you as possible. And there's some prize money, $50 US for the logo, another 50 for the banner. You can treat yourself to a super, I guess, gourmet pizza for the family and or friends, and infinite bragging rights, which is the real value here. And
that's actually you don't get a pizza unless it's a Tableau T-shirt with a pizza, because it's from the Tableau. So the Tableau swag store, that's a $50. We can even get $100 if you make both of them. So please.
Indeed.
Yeah,
absolutely. So then, yeah, our next meetup, we don't have a date yet. I would say we try to do it every 3 months or so. So I guess that would take us sometime in February, maybe early March. We'll see. Be on the lookout. We'll send out the info once we figured it out. And yeah, Q&A, I think we're pretty much covered. if anyone has any last questions, this is your last chance. Or of course, you can always reach out to us after the fact, and you can also please feel free to share feedback. We're trying to see what works, what doesn't work, and we'll take it on board for the future sessions. And with that, thanks again, everybody, for staying on until the end. Thanks to all our speakers, to my fabulous co-leads. That was super cool tips. And with that, I wish you a great rest of the day. To the people joining from the US, you can now go to sleep. Yes, that is pretty much it. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.
See you
See you
next
next
time.
time.
Thank you.